right, guys, welcome to a brand new episode of SideQuest Podcast. Listen in and level up. I have a great episode for you today, but first, as always, let's get through the show notes. If you're not following the Facebook page, head over to Facebook, type SideQuest Fitness into the search bar, and like the page. There, you're going to get updates on podcast episodes, articles when they get posted, and you're going to get a brand new taco recipe every Tuesday for Taco Camp. Plus lots of other shenanigans and nerd talk throughout the week, so make sure you head over to Facebook. You can follow me on Instagram. My handle is SideQuestFM. If you want to see some cool videos and random stuff on Instagram as well, you can follow me on Instagram. Same handle, SideQuestFM. Or follow me on Snapchat, SideQuestFit. Follow me there. Send me your questions. I want to get all the questions from you, help you as much as I can on your fitness journey or your journey in life, whatever it may be. But head over to Snapchat, SideQuestFit. Follow me there. You get a little more personal, in-depth look at the shenanigans I get into throughout every day. But I do love getting questions from the community, so please send them out to me. If you have not left a review for the podcast, please head over to iTunes. If you're not listening on iTunes and you listen on SoundCloud or Stitcher, leave a review there as well. When you leave reviews, it helps me move up the charts on the iTunes store so that more people can see and hear the amazing guests that I've had on and have on each and every single week. So make sure you head over there. And don't forget, if you haven't picked up your copy of the 7 Principles of Fat Loss, head over to sidequestfitness.com/7 principles, and you can pick up your copy of the 7 Principles of Fat Loss. These are the same 7 principles I follow each and every day and teach my clients to help them shred away more body fat, unlock heroic strength, and just look better naked. So if you want to unlock strength or just look better naked in the mirror, head over again, grab those 7 principles of fat loss, and start following those today. With 2017 right around the corner, that means you are starting to think about New Year's resolutions. Fitness and getting in shape is one of the biggest resolutions people make every year. But every year, halfway through January, almost 30% of people have given up. They quit. 6 months in, that number is even smaller, of people who are still going with their New Year's resolution. But why wait? Why wait until the gyms get packed in January? Why put it off until after the holidays? Start today. I still have a few spots open in my online coaching program. So if you're interested in losing fat, building strength, or gaining muscle this winter, head over to sidequestfitness.com/coach and apply today. My program is custom designed for your specific goals. I'll tell you exactly what you need to do or not to do to help you finally achieve your goal of gaining strength, losing fat, or building muscle. You have constant accountability. I know what it's like to do this by yourself. It's dangerous to go alone. And most of the time, that's what you try to do in the new year. You try and do this alone. You hire a trainer at the local gym, but they only keep you accountable when you see them. And the real battle is out in the real world, not in the gym. The real world is where you spend the majority of the time. And with an online coach, you have access to me 24/7 to answer your questions and help you succeed in your goals. You can consider me your Gandalf guiding you on your quest. You also get access to an app that I use online that you can use on your phone. So your program is right there no matter what, with videos to guide you through the exercises if you have any questions on anything. So if you want to stop feeling weak, unconfident, or depressed about how you look naked, then head over to sidequestfitness.com/coach and apply today. And let's start kicking some ass together. Let's get your goals on track for the new year. And let's not wait until 2017 to get started. Let's start today. Let's start kicking some ass, shredding some fat, putting on muscle, or leveling up your strength today. So head over to sidequestfitness.com/coach and apply. All right, guys, I have a great episode for you today. My good friend BJ of geekfitness.net joins me on the podcast. We talk a lot about being geeks, things we're nerding out on. We talk about his issues with mental health that he suffered in the last year and how he's overcome that. And we talk about how BJ was once over 300 pounds and lost 150 pounds by finding his love for running. We also talk a little bit about being geeks and nerds in the world of the online fitness space and thinking that we were unique snowflakes until we basically found each other online. BJ is a great guy. This is a great episode. He loves running. So we talk a little about running and weight training, but we just enjoy chatting with one another. So please enjoy this episode. And you can check out all of BJ's stuff and his podcast as well over at geekfitness.net.
Step up and you gotta get it fitness. Host Rob at the moment and the quest is you gotta check it and wreck it. You're breaking personal records and with the help of the guests you won't be guessing on the lessons. That's a +5 fears. Got a low-key bamf right here. You wanna meet him, there's no better way to greet him than to strike a boss pose. Take a look into the mirror.
All right, guys, welcome to the show. I have a fantastic guest for you today. He is a fellow geek blogger and geek podcast host, and I'm super stoked to finally get him on the show. I know we've chatted via Twitter and spied on each other via social media for a while, but he has been hustling for a long time, building up geekfitness.net, as well as the Geek to Geek podcast network. He has like 4 or 5 now. I think we were talking a little bit ago. You might be kind of moving back on one a little bit. You've been working pretty hard, and but the one and the only BJ Keeton, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. No, I cannot say how happy I am to be here to be able to geek out about everything. That's awesome.
Oh, we're going to geek out on a lot. But I think I first found you posted something on Photocracy a long time ago, back when that was like a cool thing.
It's been years since I've really been using it, but I use it a little bit here and there, meet a few people, sometimes, but for the most part, I just use it as an automated way to keep everything in the background to make sure I don't lose anything. Yeah.
But I remember seeing your post and was like, oh, Geek Fitness. Well, let me go check this out. Cause we can't do anything that involves nerd fitness, cause, that's Steve's thing over there.
Yep.
I saw that and was like, oh, all right, let's check this out. And then in the last year, thanks to my boy over at Dumbbells and Dragons, I'm like, oh my God, there's like a ton of people in this community now that are all I wasn't digging deep enough.
Yeah, that's the way I was too. I came across, I think it was Mike at Be a Healthy Geek was the one who introduced me to everybody else, where it was just like, oh, there's a huge community for this out here. And I was like, I knew Steve's stuff after I'd started mine. Somebody told me, like, hey, dude, have you seen this? I'm like, no. Well, there is a market for this. And then Mike a couple of years ago was just like, hey, there's a lot of people who do this. And I was like, I had no idea about everyone out here. I thought I was fair. I thought I was a unique and special snowflake.
Well, I think we all, at some point, when you start something, I've had a few things that I thought I was a unique and special snowflake about, and then I found out I'm not as unique as I once thought I was. It's a humbling thing. It's also slightly depressing because you're like, oh, I thought I was super cool and original.
I know. It's like, oh, but I'm just gonna sit here. I'm gonna pout now. That's kind of me about every 3 months, thinking about like, oh, other people are doing this. I'm not gonna. So yeah, it's all right though. It's good. We can make friends with it, and that's really my whole thing is wanting to make friends with everybody.
Well, and that's the thing. I think that one thing you and I have been talking about since we sort of connected, and with Mike and everyone else is sort of creating a community of everyone to sort of help, because a rising tide raises all ships.
Yeah,
and all of us working together, because and we're going to talk about this. We'll get into your story. You're a runner.
Yes.
My listeners know I will sprint. I like feeling fast,
Yeah.
But I don't distance running makes my mind, my body can go on autopilot, but then my mind takes over, and I don't like where my mind goes, because then I want to do something other than run. I want to create art, or I want to write something, or my mind goes to weird places that are uncomfortable. I'm like, this running thing, I don't like it.
See, and I'm the exact same way, and I react the entire opposite of that. If my mind does the exact same things, and that's what really attracts me to running, though. because I get really bored doing weights that I really want to get into strength training, that I really, really want to. And every time I go in, I do it really hardcore for about 3 weeks to a month. And then I'm like, okay, I've done this for a while. I want to go run again. And it's just, I can't seem to stick with it and running. I'll just go and zone out and think about all the art that I want to create and the writing I want to do, and come back totally energized to do that stuff. Where when I'm lifting, I can't focus on any of that. I'm so in the zone trying to, make sure I don't break my arms and my back that I don't get that kind of meditative quality from it. And if you can teach me how to get that through weight training, please, I need that so badly.
Well, and we're going to go into your story, and I've read about it, and I know, sort of your progress from 300 plus pounds to where you are now, and taking it slow. Because, one of my big things about running is I have friends ask me about it all the time. They're like, oh, I want to do a 5K. And I'm like, how often do you run now? I don't.
Yeah.
You have a 5K win? Oh, a month. Yeah. I'm going to say that's like you thinking you can squat 225 pounds when you've never squatted before. You gotta work up to it. I would say do the same thing you did with running. Just take it slow. Go in and find the lifts, and I can give you some lifts and things, but do the stuff that's going to improve your running. And then when you see that it's improved your times or your running or made your stride better or more powerful, I think then you've got some buy-in that, oh, I should keep doing the strength thing. And then you sort of uncover that, and then you can get into it a bit more. That's what I would suggest, just like you did with your story. So speaking of your story, how did you, what was the time I use, and you know this probably, I use a lot of superhero references.
Yeah.
What was your sort of, as Joseph Campbell would call it, your call to action? What was the moment where when you were over 300 pounds, that you were like, you know what, that's it, I'm done. I have to get in shape. What was that moment?
I was in Florida. I was at the Wizarding World of Harry Potter. And this was before it opened. This was in 2010, before the park opened. And we were in Florida. My wife and I had been married for about 6 months. We were down for a work conference, and we heard that the Wizarding World of Harry Potter was doing soft openings before their grand opening. They were just testing the park out, letting people in if you were in the Islands of Adventure Park. So we heard they were open. We rushed across across Orlando from the Animal Kingdom at Disney, and we basically, me being 300 pounds and my wife weighing 125-ish, bolted running across the. You had never seen a funnier sight than this tiny woman and this absurdly fat guy. Actually sprinting as hard as we can to get inside the Wizarding World section before they close the doors again. So I get in there, and it is magical. Have you ever been there? Have you ever been to the Wizarding World?
I have not, and my audience knows this. I just finished the series this year. I was one of those hipsters who was like, I'm not going to read Harry Potter because everyone says I should read it. I don't care. But I saw the movies. And
right.
Yeah.
It's like being in the movies. It really is. They did such a wonderful job that you can't help but feel like, oh my God, this place is real. So I go in and I'm going in and I want to ride the Dragon Challenge. It's a roller coaster where it used to be called Dueling Dragons, where these two roller coasters will come up and like zoom around each other and flip and do all of this stuff. And it's one where you're hanging in a harness. And so your feet are free and just hanging like that. So I get in and it's our turn. They're pushing everyone through. It's really, really, really busy. And I get into the fat guy seat because, in roller coaster, I'm sure you've seen them, those larger seats for the plus size people. And so I get into it and I sit down and I get ready to harness in and I pull the harness down and it won't click. And it's got to click 3 times for this to be safe. So I'm pulling it down and I cannot get it over my gut. And the dude who was trying to get me in here and get me safe and buckled cannot get it buckled over my gut. He is jumping, and I swear to you, my hand, I know I don't have video on here, but my hand is up, hand to God. He was jumping and putting all of his weight on it, trying to get it to click the 3 times it needed to make me safe, and it clicked once. We barely got the seatbelt done, and he just sent me off. I thought I was going to die. I knew that this was wrong. I knew it wasn't in there. I could feel it shaking shaking as as it was moving. I knew I was going to be on the Orlando News that night as being this fat guy flung across Universal Studios, and people were going to watch me just splat. I could see it in my head. It was ridiculous. I was screaming, but it wasn't out of fun. It was out of fear that I was really about to die and be a YouTube sensation for all the wrong reasons. And I knew at that point, I was like, I've been looking forward to this for years since they first announced this park. I was so looking forward to it, and I couldn't live my life. I couldn't enjoy something I had been looking forward to and planning for that long simply because I was fat. That there was no other reason that I could not enjoy it, but because I was too big to do anything. And that was the first time in my life, I am a straight white dude, so I'm living life in easy mode, like John Scalzi said in his favorite article. It's like you're just pressing start and putting on easy mode and going on. I'd never had anything bad happen to me. I was like, wait, bad things can happen to me? What's going on? Well, I can't do everything that I want to do when I want to do it. This has to change right now. And it was. I felt it was that first moment where it was, you're from the South too. It was my come to Jesus moment. And it was like, yep, I cannot be fat anymore. I will not let this make it so that I cannot live my life. And at that point, I came home. My mother and father-in-law were doing a low glycemic diet, and they told me that they had lost 40 pounds each from not doing anything and just going on this diet. No exercise, nothing, just eating like this. And I was like, I hate exercise and getting sweaty. Let's do this if it works. And it worked. And I lost about 30 pounds without lifting a finger. And that really got me going from that point on, seeing that I could actually do this.
So, which is possible. And I know a lot of people, when they start, they're like, oh, God, I don't want to exercise. And there are millions, well, okay, not millions. Fine, millions of benefits to exercise. I could guarantee you I could probably come up with 1 million. If Staples can ask me 65 questions that are the same 3 questions worded differently, I can find 1 million ways to the benefits of exercise. But you can lose weight without exercise. Like you really, really can. But what made you decide to take up running? Like even at that point, once you got those 30 pounds off, what attracted you to running?
So my wife had always run in college, and I'm incredibly competitive. And like I said, she's 5'0", 115, 125 pounds, bouncing between there. So a tiny lady. And she'd always been a runner through college. She would come in and do a 5K every night on her treadmill when she was when she got done with grad school. And she decided to start Couch to 5K. And I was like, I can do this too. Let me go out here and run with you. 10 seconds later, I was about to die. I could not do the first interval, and I thought it was miserable. And so I felt really bad about this. Like, I don't do things unless I'm good at them. I'm that kind of guy. It's like, oh, I'm terrible at this. I'm just going to shove this aside. No one will ever see me be bad at it. But something about this one really got me thinking. I was like, if Jennifer can do this, I can do this. So I really started just pushing through Couch to 5K and thinking, I can do this. And it was hard and it was awful. And I hated running. I know that you were just mentioning just how before we started recording that your legs will hurt, that everything gets tight, and it does. It's awful. And when I was working on the Kickstarter for my novel Birthright, I needed a break. And I was going out and running one day because, I was a teacher. And so I was treating it like my job over that summer. And I just had to get a break from my computer and writing and networking and marketing. And I went out for a run, and I did my 30, 45 minutes or whatever Couch to 5K called for that day. And I came home, and I felt good. It was the first time that I'd ever run that I was like, oh, I feel better after my run than I did before it. This is why people do this. This is awesome. My legs weren't tired. My body didn't hurt. My knees weren't aching. The bottoms of my feet, they didn't feel like razor blades were cutting into them anymore. It was like, oh, this is how it's supposed to be. And after that one hit of endorphins, endocannabinoids, whatever you want to call, whatever it was that got me, it was at that point where I was just like, yep, this is what I need to feel like for the rest of my life. That it really was like all of the detriments and feeling terrible while it was going on were completely made up by that just euphoria of coming in and being like, I'm cozy and feel wonderful now.
It's a great feeling when that feeling hits.
And that was the first time I'd ever felt it with any kind of exercise. So I was like, yeah, let's keep doing it.
And usually what happens is you might have that once and you feel great. And this is going to happen to a lot of people during the new year. They have that first workout. They were like, oh man, the next day they're like, oh man, I'm sore, but I know it works. Like it works. It feels good. But then like it happens again or they don't get that feeling again. And then they sort of give up. So what kept you going?
Heart disease. My dad died.
It's always. I was going to take that somewhere. Then you laid down that my dad died. I'm like, yep, that's
No. I joke about it all the time. One of my favorite pieces of ammunition when people are talking about fitness and exercise or anything really is trying to guilt them with the my dead father kind of thing. It's like, oh well, my dead father loved Firefly. Why don't you? And they're like, but I just huh? And so you can't do it. Your reaction was perfect. It just makes me so happy because it was when my dad died. I didn't want to be that way. I mean, he died at 60, and I was like, of heart disease. He had a heart attack almost every year from 2000 to 2012. So I didn't want to be that way. He died at 60, and I was like, this is not going to be me. So running and cardio was really my way of making sure that I brought my blood pressure down. I was keeping myself in a good weight level and a good weight range and keeping myself fit where I could stand up off of the couch without being winded, that kind of thing. And so just having my dad's death just right there. And I mean, I'm not even being morbid about it, but knowing that he had died from heart problems and that other people in my family had those same issues, I just had to do something about it. I wrote a line one time that said, two things run in my family, heart disease and me. And my wife just really laughed at it because she's like, yeah, that's about right. So I was like, that's really what it is. Heart disease made me run, but it wasn't mine.
Dude, I'm with you on that. I think something that a lot of people, shy away from sometimes is that pain is a huge motivator. And
yeah.
I mean, I didn't have the greatest relationship with my dad growing up. So like everything I try to do is like, as a person and as a man is to not be my father in a lot of ways, because I don't want to continue that. But even health wise, my dad has diabetes, which is entirely preventable. Like it's a diet, like it's not hereditary. I mean, I guess it is really his is brought on by diet, but, I don't really know. My other grandfather died of like some rare form of cancer, which freaked me out.
Well, yeah, of course.
But, cause my grandmother was like, oh yeah, we don't know what it is. Whatever, your grandfather's dead. I don't want him to do anymore. I'm like, no, I need to know. I want to know. I need to know these things. There are things that could influence my life later on. Come on, Grandma.
I know my cousin had the same thing happen to him. So every time I get a headache, I start thinking about him and the incredibly rare form of, I think it was like glioblastoma that he had. And it was like, he was young. He was a little bit older than me right now. Is this it? Is that hereditary? Can I get this? Even though it's so incredibly rare. I totally feel you on that. I was like, I need to know more about this. My head hurts.
Yeah. Yeah. So you are now down to about 150 pounds, probably, like, waffle in between 150 160.
Usually, yes. I end up gaining back a bunch through injury this year. I tore a ligament in my leg last December, and so that really put me on the downward spiral of not being able to run. And then, the Alabama humidity happened this summer, and I was already out of the habit, and I was like, man, you know what's nice? My couch. And so I've gained up to about 185 right now, which is still not bad by any means, but my clothes don't fit. So I'm having to start back running again because my clothes are just a little bit too small for me at this point. But yeah, between 150 and 180-ish at any given time, just up and down, depending on if I'm lifting or running more.
Yeah. So what have you done? I mean, were you able to stay active during your injury?
Not really.
Not really.
It was also during the worst point of anxiety that I've ever had. I call it my nervous breakdown last August. And I actually saw a psychiatrist about it, and he hated the fact that I would call it my nervous breakdown. But that's essentially what it was. I kind of just gave up. Like I went to the doctor. everything in my life felt like it was falling apart. And it turns out that I have like bipolar 2, which I didn't know was a thing. I didn't know there were two kinds of bipolar until this.
Neither.
And apparently it is, because I have it. And it's where instead of being extreme mania and extreme depression, it's something where I get in hypomanic states where I think I'm really, really excited and I feel really good. And I have like 4 or 5 side projects going on. And it turns out I'm really just wearing myself down. And then that sinks me into a depression. And so that's really what happened last fall. And so I was dealing with that, changing on antidepressant and anti-anxiety medications, trying to figure out what was going on, seeing a doctor, seeing a counselor. So between all of that, I just had zero energy and ability to run. So it's only been within the last couple of months that I finally got my head right, found the right combination of medicine and yoga and meditation and exercise that put me back in a good enough spot to be able to do that, to be able to run and exercise again. So
mental health is actually a big thing that over the last year I've talked to guests about, because it's a part of health that we don't really talk about a lot. Like we always talk about like, heart disease, diabetes, weight loss. We don't talk about the mental side.
No, we don't.
And I think it's something that needs to be talked about, especially for people in the internet and entrepreneurial space as well.
Yeah.
I don't talk about stuff a lot, like really super private things. I have a post coming out soon at some point when I can get over my perfectionism of like really writing this thing on like self-destructive behavior.
Which is really hard to write about. I mean, I haven't even been able to talk about the self-destructive side of it.
Yeah. And it's not easy because you are sort of like, oh God, I'm putting myself out there. What will people think? But you're thinking that while millions of other people are thinking the same thing. And if they can read something from you and be like, oh man, I really connected with you. Like they feel more at peace. And if they see that you have like gone out and lost this weight and you've improved, they can, get inspired to do that. I mean, that's why we have heroes. That's why the hero's journey works the way that it does. That's why we read comics and watch the movies that we watch. And we'll geek out in a second. But I do want to talk real quick about sort of mental health, because you had all that happen to you. And we were talking before the podcast came on. We're actually really close to one another. And I'm in the Eastern time zone, but you're in the Central time zone. And I could drive 25 minutes like west and be an hour behind my normal time, which is still weird because real Central time, as we were saying, is kind of like Texas.
Yeah, where it actually makes sense for it with the way that the sun and the darkness, that's the word I'm looking for, actually works.
Darkness, everybody. But you have some mood things with sunlight, and that tends to happen in the winter. You have the winter blues. I've written about that before and how it can affect people. It's also one reason why you crave more carbs, because your body's like, oh, sleep, I need serotonin. Give me serotonin. What gives you serotonin? Increased carbohydrates. Yay! Which is why it's so good to build muscle in the winter, because you're like, carbs.
It is.
But what did you do, or what has helped you get through to get back into running or to get started? And did you have these issues when you first were starting your, as I call it, your fitness quest?
I didn't know that I had the issues. That is really one of the big takeaways for me, is that I've apparently always dealt with this, but in my mind I said, oh, I'm just feeling kind of weird. Something's going on. I'm in a weird mood today. It's okay. And then when it started manifesting in full on panic attacks every day, that was whenever I realized that, okay, this is the same feeling, only more intense. So that was really what got me seeing a doctor about it. And so it kind of affected me to get me started on all of this. But recently it's really, I don't know, it's getting back into running. Let me think, how's the best way for me to put this? It's almost like whenever I start, I can't use it as an antidepressant. And that's the way that I'd tried for a long time. For a couple of years, I had tried to use running and exercise as a way to completely outrun my problems, to use that as an escape and a meditation. And it got to the point where it was so extreme that I couldn't anymore. And so now I'm I'm using it as a way to actually better myself as opposed to run away, if that makes any sense. I'm trying to treat the illness differently than I was before. Not necessarily using it as a motivation, but as, I don't know. That doesn't make any sense.
No, it does. It actually makes a lot of sense. I think many of us have activities or things we do to hide our pain because, I'm a big, I guess, because I grew up a bit of an emo kid. I have no problem like wearing my pain on my sleeve and being all like, emotional or whatever.
I know. I still have Dashboard Confessional on playlists on my Spotify right now.
Hell yeah, Dashboard on the playlist.
Oh yeah, last fall during the worst part of it, I swear to you, hand to God again, I was lying on my floor in my office staring at the ceiling fan, listening to Dashboard Confessional, just crying, and it was just like, all right.
You know what? That sounds like a Thursday. That sounds like a Thursday to me. Like, I've started working. I'm in the middle of some writer's block. I'm trying to figure out some shit, like how to make this sentence, this paragraph sound great. And what do? I just lay on the floor. I put on some brand newer Dashboard, and I just cry myself into like whatever creative, like I cry until the muse shows up. You know what? Yep. That's what I do.
Say Anything does it for me. I just get angry, and I'm like, yeah, you tell him, Bemis, and I'm good. Like, people like you really are the reason people like me exist. It's, yep, I feel you. I know exactly how that is.
Cool. Well, let's get into some of the fun questions that I have, because we gotta geek out on some nerd stuff for a minute after this. But BJ, if you could go anywhere in a time machine, where would you go?
Oh goodness, the end of time. I want to see how it all turns out. Like, if I could see absolutely anything in the entire universe, all of this, I want to know what the very last few seconds of existence would look like. All right. I know, real weird.
No. I've had people say they want to go to the future, like 300 years in the future, to see what happened to like what actions we took today influenced years from now.
Yeah.
But I like that. How's it going to end? I could be dead. I don't know how it's going to end.
Yep. The inevitable heat death of the universe. I'm good. I just want to see everything stop on a molecular level. I'm like, oh, and then I'm dead too.
Well, yeah. I mean, theoretically, yeah. So,
yeah. Yep. It's like, uh-oh. Bad choice.
Which is always the weird thing with like time travel. Like, if you went back and see, this is where I can't talk about time travel, because it's so like there's so many things. Like, if you went back and you changed one thing, would that, like, the Japanese proverb of like, the stone, the pebble in the pond, or the flutter of a butterfly wing or whatever, like, would that really change like everything? Like, there's so many things even in Back to the Future where you're like, but hold on.
Have you ever seen the movie About Time?
No.
It's great. It's a time travel movie, but it makes me weepy. It's like an emotional family drama where members of this family can travel back through time. Like, the male members of the family can travel back in time. And it actually hit at one point on something I'd never thought about. He changed something in order to save somebody, or change something about his life that made it better. And when he got back into his correct time, he had the wrong child, that he had a different kid, because there was a different sperm that fertilized the egg in that particular timeline, that everything hadn't gone into that particular millisecond for that sperm to win the fight. Basically, it was like, so his entire like relationship with his child had been wiped away. And it's like, holy crap, I've never thought about that. Oh my goodness, that would happen. That's nuts.
Right, but then he would have the memory of something that didn't exist. So either he was making up something in his head. Like, how would that, like, see, there's more, like, this is why time travel is such a mind fuck. Like, you literally could be like, but wait a minute, if I change this thing where my grandma didn't die, then how would I ever know that she was dying if I changed it
in the first place? And so you're out of time at that point. Yeah, it just, yeah.
All right, if your life were a movie, what would the title be?
Left-hand turn into Friday Night Traffic. I've always held out that was either going to be my memoir or my poetry collection, because that just pretty much sums up my life.
All right. All right. I actually really like that. Like that's hilarious and genius. I like it. What's the last new thing you've tried?
Oh, goodness gracious. I don't know. I guess trying to actually learn SEO is actually the last thing I've done. Is I have never paid attention to it. And so my last couple of weeks has been really trying to learn SEO and what it legitimately means, as opposed to just, keyword density is about the extent of what, I've never really focused on it before. But that's about the newest thing I've tried to actually, really dig in and learn.
I got you. All right. We'll discuss a couple things off the end. I just use a plugin on WordPress.
Yoast.
Yep. Yeah. But there's some really cool stuff you can sort of do with it. If you could write a note to your younger self, what would you say in only 2 words?
Stop eating.
All right. I feel like I shouldn't laugh at that, but that's like, but like there was no thinking. You knew it like straight up, like stop eating. Like, all right.
Well, one of my favorite stories that my wife tells about just how belligerent I was as a fat guy was one time I'd been talking about needing to lose weight. We were dating and she said, maybe we're making lunch and all I had was hot dogs and we're going to have hot dogs for lunch. And she was like, hey, I'm going to heat me up a hot dog. Do you want it? I was like, yeah, heat me up 3 hot dogs. And she was like, well, you've been saying you wanted to lose weight. Maybe you shouldn't have, maybe you should eat fewer hot dogs than that. And I looked at her and I just said, but I ate 3 hot dogs. And it was just like, that was how I was like, when I ate hot dogs, I was going to eat 3 hot dogs. Like there was I can eat fewer than that. What are you talking about, lady? And it was, that's why I think it's like, nope, just stop eating. Just stop.
And I think that's a good point too, that so many people, many of us go through, sort of transformation and we change our lives and we want to help people do it, our friends, our family or whatever. But we have to realize that, everyone is on their own hero's journey. I'm going to always refer to things in the Campbell universe because it just makes so much sense. Everyone refuses to call until the point that they like roll up and they're like, oh shit, Aunt Beru and Uncle Owen are dead. I guess I got nothing else to do. I should probably do this thing. Like everyone has to have that moment, and not everyone has that moment, at the same time you have it. It could be years down the line.
Really could.
And that's, I just think being an example and doing the things and being consistent and even still showing that you fail and screw up and, hey, I ate, a 5,000 calorie burger in Atlanta because it was tasty. Like, whatever. Like people want to see that too, but then you get back on the track and you keep doing your thing. And I think eventually people will sort of, make changes from what they see from you. But again, everyone's got to come to their own sort of call to action. All right, last one, and I don't know why I didn't ask this one.
All right,
but it's one of my favorites that I've come up with. What store would you max your credit card out with, or max your credit card out at?
Probably last year I would have said Fleet Feet. Oh man, right now probably Best Buy.
All right.
Yeah, just stuff, just as many electronics as I could get. Video games right now, that's really what I'm into. So I was like, I just buy everything that I could get.
What are you playing right now?
Right now, a lot of Overwatch is mostly what I'm playing. I really, they put out a new mode this week with
PC,
the arcade.
Xbox, PS4?
PC. I don't have Xbox One or PS4, so I'm still running the PS3 because most of my gaming is on the PC.
Well, because to be honest, basically, if you have an Xbox One or a PS4, you still have a 360 and a PS3 because that's all they've done is rehash games.
Yep, pretty much.
I'm not going to rant. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to go there. It's just this console cycle has pissed me off. Like the 360. Like my wife is like, why do we still have this? You don't play any of the games and you can play some of them now on your Xbox One. I'm like, we're not getting rid of this. This is like my first car. Okay. This was the console that like, I mean, like so much of like, yeah, I played Nintendo as a kid and I had all that stuff, but like the gaming that really got me into like playing with people and meeting some of the best people I know in my life happened on that console.
Yeah.
I just
that's
need
how
to
I feel
have
about the PC that, But yeah, I know that this generation of consoles, the only reason I have a PS3 instead of an Xbox One is because my Xbox red ringed. I got it on New Year's Day in 2006. So it was right after it came out. Yeah. And it lasted for years. Like, I never had any problems with this. It lasted me through the end of college, through graduate school, through when I got married. I mean, it lasted a good 7 years or so, 7 or 8 years. And no problems with it. It red ringed, had a buddy fix it, and it's still overheated and red ringed after about 30 minutes of use. Threw the thing up on eBay, told the people that that's what it did. But with all of my games, I got exactly enough money to be able to go buy a PS3 to be able to play the games I wanted on there and use it as the media center now. So that's what I've got. I wait on this one to die and get a PS4 and upgrade for the exact same reason, just to play Final Fantasy 15 and a couple others.
Are you getting that on PC?
If it ever comes out on PC, absolutely.
Gotcha. Well, they might. Well,
they're talking about it, so we're hoping. I'm hoping.
I'm not gonna. No. I just actually picked up a game on sale for Cyber Monday, but I like Final Fantasy, but I don't know. I tried to play 13 and
it's so bad.
Here's the thing. I still like turn-based RPGs.
Yes.
All right, look. The South Park game is genius. It was hilarious. It was amazing. I want to get the new one as well. But I don't mind doing that. I'm not some 7-year-old or 8-year-old kid that needs constant movement to keep my attention. I can play that. I want that. I want that kind of I don't need all this stuff you're trying to do with it. I just give me the turn-based RPG.
Yep. I am the exact same way. I bought a Vita recently just to play old PlayStation 1 RPGs on it with Xenogears and Final Fantasy 9 and things like that. Get them for $2 or $3 a piece when they're on sales. I'm going to do that. It's awesome.
Yeah. All right, so I know we got tons of geek stuff happening, and that has happened in the last year. This year, what's been your favorite movie in the realm of comic book films I have not seen the new Harry Potter Fantastic Beast yet.
I haven't either.
Okay, well then we can't talk about that, so forget about it. But out of Cap and Deadpool and Suicide Squad and Batman versus Robin. Batman versus Robin would actually be awesome. Superman versus Batman. What was your favorite this year?
I think that Doctor Strange was actually my favorite. That of any of them, that Civil War was probably my best one. It was fantastic, and I loved it. Then I saw Doctor Strange and saw them do something completely new with the MCU. With them bringing in the mystical stuff with the magic and talking about a lot of the. And I know it is very surface level Eastern philosophy, but just being able to talk about that kind of stuff, I really thought it was an interesting way of looking at the MCU that probably did more for the overall franchise than Civil War did. So I want to see it again to make sure that it's one of them that I like that much, in terms of ranking up. But I think I had most fun watching it.
Yeah, I think it was a necessary step to bring in Thanos.
Yes,
to cover that sort of world, because Thor did it, but this really digs deep into so there are alternate realities, and I think it opens them up as well to, once they're done with Thanos, they can bring in alternate universes, and it allows them to expand now.
And I'm really hoping that just because they've opened it all up, that we'll get Galactus at some point. Now that they've brought in something as large as Dormammu, I'm just hoping they do Galactus well if they do him.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot in that. I mean, they're going to do Ego, so I don't know. Galactus, it bothered me. I mean, look, the Fantastic Four movies were not really ever good,
right?
Except for Chris Evans, and the guy who played Doctor Doom, because I loved Nip Tuck back in the day. But Galactus bothered me in that one, and I don't know if because he's so corny in the comics. He's a giant he's going to eat Earth. Like it, I don't know.
They did it kind of well in the Ultimate comics. I'm not sure if you had read.
I haven't read the Ultimate comics yet. I did get Marvel Unlimited.
Awesome! I love that.
It's like, I got it when it was like $5 a month. I was like, yes, I will pay you $5 a month for all the comics I can read. So like I'm going back and reading a bunch of stuff from my childhood that I had.
It may have been an Ultimate Vision that they did it, but they had an Ultimate Galactus where it was basically kind of a Brainiac, sentient computer race, basically, of coming in, where it was like a fleet and an armada of smaller beings that were like a hive mind that did it, where it worked a lot better in terms of, I'm not this giant, I'm not a space giant that goes through with horns. And I did like it, but I was figured if they did it, it would be something along those lines. Yeah. Where basically they'll bring in Brainiac in the Marvel universe.
So what are you geeking out on right now?
I've finally gotten back into reading. So the whole mental health thing kind of took my focus away from me for the beginning of the year. And so I've finally been reading a whole lot. And I got back to one of my favorite book series called The Lightbringer by Brent Weeks. They're just fantastic. Basically, someone dared him to write a series of novels that use Magic the Gathering as a basis that was based around colors of magic like that. Turned out to be absolutely brilliant. I love this. And the fourth one in the series just came out. So I've been reading it, and I'm gearing up for Star Wars. Once I finish this book, I am digging so far in on Star Wars novels that I've missed over the year, reading Ahsoka and the Life Debt and the new one called Catalyst, I think, that leads up to Rogue One. Pretty much my next few weeks are going to be living in Star Wars. So I'm super excited I've been really wanting to geek out about stuff like that, write some Star Wars fitness articles, that kind of thing, where I'm just really, really wanting to dig in on Star Wars again.
Well, as listeners will listen to this on Monday, the next episode, guys, on the next Monday is a giant Star Wars geek out, because it will come out the week of Rogue One. So I got a huge nothing but just no fitness, no nothing. We're just talking Star Wars all episode long. Dude, I'm pumped for Rogue One. That new trailer, the last trailer they put out, we get to hear a little breathing from Darth Vader. And I have a feeling that the Dark Lord is only going to be in very, very little, and that's okay. It's not a Skywalker film. We don't need him as much, but I did hear a rumor, and you know how the internet is. Rumors that one of the scenes, he like force chokes like one or two rebels, and it uses them as a human shield.
That sounds about right.
I really hope that scene is in the movie, because
it sounds awesome.
I need something. I need something to make me feel like Darth Vader is awesome again after Frankenvader. Like after Frankenvader, I
have you watched Rebels?
I've not watched Rebels because we don't have Disney, so like we have like basic cable you can get. Because for some reason where we live, we can't even use like an HD antenna. Like there's no over the air CBS. Like you have to have the basic Comcast. So until they put it on Netflix, I can't watch
Think about it. It's on Amazon. I actually ended up buying the first couple of seasons. It's not Prime, but you can actually buy the seasons on there. I think they're $20 or $30 a piece. So, I mean, if you're willing to spend it, and I did it on the first one, and they have between the seasons, basically mini seasons of a couple of 3 episodes that turn out like a movie that bridge the seasons together. And at the end of season 1, they actually bring Vader into Rebels. And oh my God, he is so terrifying. It is the first thing that I've ever seen that made Darth Vader as scary as they made him out to be in the original trilogy.
Well, didn't they also base his animation on what is Frank's last name? McCrory?
Yeah.
Didn't they base his animation in Rebels off the original sketches that he made? Okay, I thought so.
And he is terrifying. Like the way that he moves. At one point, I may be misremembering the scene, but I'm fairly certain he throws an ATST at somebody, and like he is terrifying, like legitimately scary and badass. Where if you see nothing else, just go get the middle, like between season 1 and season 2, and watch Vader fight Ezra and Kanan and Ahsoka. And like I'm going like this week to finish out season 2, where it's a big Vader and Ahsoka finale at the end of it. That I look forward to Rogue One just to see if they can make him as awesome as Rebels did. And that's saying a lot because of how little I like Clone Wars.
Here's the thing. The original Clone Wars, and we're probably going to geek with this.
The Genndy Tartakovsky one?
Yes. This is a little taste. This is a little taste for what's coming up next week on the Star Wars Geek Out. Those were fantastic.
Those are some of the best Star Wars that's ever been made.
Yeah. Those were amazing because, like, an entire episode where it's just Mace Windu saying nothing and just kicking ass. I was like, yes.
Yeah.
Yes. They were and the style was great. Now, the newer Clone Wars, I started watching. I was like, all right. Okay, cool. Oh, my God, you brought Jar Jar in.
Yep. And there were entire 3-episode arcs in that of Jar Jar and Bail Organa going on a road trip together. There was a buddy comedy arc with those two. They had Jimmy Smits and Jar Jar going on a road trip with each other, dude.
No, I won't watch it. That's almost as bad as that episode of Dragon Ball where like Piccolo and Goku went to learn how to drive. I don't care if they go to the DMV. You're over here trying to, like, there's some badass like screwing up the world, and you're over here learning how to drive. Get out of here. You're stupid. It's like, how many episodes of Buffy were like throwaway episodes? And I'm like, why is this even in the season?
But they're so fun to go back and watch the Buffy throwaway episodes. They are as you're watching it, you're like, I just want to know about the story. Tell me what's going on. And then, right now, it's like, I want to watch an episode of Buffy. We're going to watch Beer Bad. And it's like, I want to see Buffy as a cave woman with crimped hair today, where it's terrible in context of the series, but you can go back and watch them and they're hilarious.
Some of those throwaway episodes for
they're painful.
It blows my mind. Like I don't get it. I'm definitely looking forward. I'm actually rereading because I read the comic as a kid because reading for me, my brain moved too fast, which we covered. I'm actually going back and fully reading the Thrawn series. Because I did the comics, and now I really want to dive into the storytelling that Zahn used instead of just reading the comic version of it. And it's pretty awesome.
And there's a really cool collector's edition I think they did for the 20th anniversary of that has footnotes and annotations by Zahn that basically talk has marginalia of why he never uses the word credits and things like that I never even noticed reading through it, that he hates using. He thought it was stupid to use the word credits. Like, that doesn't sound like it. We're just going to refer to money. And he would work his sentences around not making it sound incredibly cheesy and awful like a lot of franchise tie-ins were. And so it's just like, it's a really interesting read if you want to know about the actual construction of it and how he put the world together.
Yeah, I think it's something as and I'm sure you know this as being an author and writer as well, that you're creating a story sometimes, and you want to create a new world, even J.K. Rowling created a whole new world, but it was a world that still mirrored a lot of things in our own lives. Like, it wasn't something totally new and different and weird. Like, it made sense. Like, there's a bank, there are police, there are councils. There, okay, cool. Like, this makes sense. So you're just reading. Catching up with some Star Wars stuff.
Yeah, I'm just catching up on Star Wars stuff right now is the main thing.
Any TV shows you and the wife are geeking out on?
Supergirl, actually. I did not care anything at all about Supergirl, and then about 8 episodes in, I just got hooked that finally they found their footing and the show became way, way better. And so I got a text while we were, right when we first started recording that just said, we forgot to watch Supergirl last night. So it's just that's become our new thing that we look forward to, because we stopped watching a lot of the CW superhero shows a couple of seasons ago. Yeah. And this one is just refreshing because, you know, it's got nice people doing nice things for each other. And she legitimately cares about doing good, kind of like The Flash, where I got really tired of the dark and broody stuff that was going on in Arrow. So I just kind of stopped watching it. But Supergirl just feels completely different than a lot of it. And I'm really impressed because I didn't think they were going to do a very good job with it. And they've handled a lot of issues like being gay and realizing you're gay and dealing with it. It's handled incredibly well, and like not even a little bit cheesy the way that CW stuff can be. Like I was really impressed with the writers getting emotions correct, like having characters have conversations that real people would have. That's one of my biggest turnoffs as an English teacher and as you know, a writer. It's like, people wouldn't say that. Like, two people sitting in a bar would never have that conversation. Like, no one would ever interact that way. That's not how people interact. And for somehow Supergirl got that right this season on, that's how people interact with each other. It's like, good for you guys.
Well, I think that's hard to do and I know that in my own writing as well. I'm going back and rereading some old stuff, and I realized how I wrote more like it was a paper in college, you know, and it didn't read like something you would hear conversationally. So I'm making some changes and edits to old posts, and really focusing on now, like in everything I do, being 100% as much of me as I can be in everything that I do, which is a little weird online, and we can close out sort of talking about this, is you want to be you, but, you're also like, well, but I want people to like read my stuff, and I gotta get people to like me. Right. So like, how do you balance being the ridiculous person that you and I are? And, I sometimes say a lot of things without thinking. And my wife will laugh or just shake her head at some of the things I say. But on the internet, you kind of have to like be a little careful. But how do you still be that person? Which is something I'm still trying to work out.
For me, whenever I'm doing this, is I just decided I'm weird, and I fully accept that. I'm a cartoon character. I realized years ago, because kids, I realized this through being around small children, that toddlers and small kids either love me or they hate me. There's no kid who's ever like, oh yeah, BJ's here, he's going to go do this now, he's over there. It's they either are just enamored with me and giggling and playing and climbing all over me, or they are terrified of me and run away and hide behind their parents. And either way, it's because I'm a giant cartoon character. They either love me because I'm a giant cartoon character, or they hate me because I'm a giant cartoon character. And it's terrifying for them. And that's what I try to bring online, is like, that's my personality. I am loud and annoying, and I say stupid stuff and make awful jokes. And that's kind of the way that I've tried to move my online persona into, that I go back and look at things on professorbeej.com that I wrote that started me blogging, and it hurts my soul that I am trying to decide if it's worth taking that entire blog down, because a lot of it is objectively bad. And I've moved forward because it was academic. I'd started out when I was in graduate school, used to writing these long essays about pop culture. And so that's what I was doing. And now I've moved into this trying to be a very candid, open, honestly, very optimistic, just, hey guys, the sun is shining and everything is wonderful. And, things can suck sometimes, but they're going to get better. It's like hyperbole and a half. Maybe not everything's not total bullshit or something like that. Yeah. It's if I can say that, I'm not sure. No.
Whoa. Listen, my audience knows I have a dirty sailor mouth. I do my best to clean it up when I can, but I'm finishing an article right now that will be up. As we're speaking, it'll go up this week. It'll already be up, so you can find it on the website, and I use the F word like 15 times. Maybe I've been reading too much Mark Manson. Fuck it.
Maybe
I don't care.
I try to I have the mouth of a sailor, and my wife, when Drew and I started when Void and I started doing the Geek to Geek podcast, we set out to do a clean podcast because we wanted to have it open to as many people as possible, and so we wanted people to listen to it with their kids because he's a family guy, he's got a couple of kids, and wants people to be able to listen to them together. So with me and my very vulgar mouth, it's a trial to make sure that I don't say anything. So when I said that, it's like, maybe everything's not hopeless bullshit. It's like, oh, Drew Void would have killed me for that and had to edit it out, and it would have been like, oh. So I'm so used to just being in that mindset when I'm recording.
No, you're good. But let's talk about that, because you do have a podcast as well. We've been geeking out for a little bit. We talked about your story and some mental health stuff, but you guys have the Geek to Geek network.
Right.
Talk a little bit about the podcast you guys have, and you have a subreddit, and you have some other things as well. So where can people sort of find that, and what else do you guys do in the Geek to Geek network?
Well, right now we started it with the Geek to Geek podcast. It's on all of the podcast catcher places that you guys can look it up and see. We wanted a podcast where it was the two guys talking podcast. You know, you always get the buddies who come together and like, let's talk about pop culture and geeks and games. And then it devolves into a 3-hour rambling session of in jokes. And, it's just not fun to listen to unless you know them personally, or you've been listening since episode 1. And it's like, you forward through about 45 minutes of it while they're like playing guitar and like laughing at each other, just whatever they're doing. And we wanted a very topics-based, focused podcast where we were essentially talking to our audience and being us. And so it got way more, we just got way more attention to it than we thought we would. People really responded well to it. They're like, oh, this is the kind of podcast that I like. And, you know, you keep it succinct and on topic and you're not rambling, which is saying a lot for me. And we got such a good response that one of his friends, Rob, was like, I want to do a comic book podcast. Would that work? We're like, yeah, let's do this together. You know, we can all help each other out. Because like you said before, you know, the rising tide, you know, raises all ships. So we put that together. And at the time, he was doing the Video Game News Now podcast as well, to be able to really summarize a lot of gaming news that was coming out. And then after the E3 season, that kind of fell apart because there really hasn't been a lot of gaming stuff going on lately outside of, hey, the Switch is coming out and, you know, Battlefield 1 and all of that dropped. It's like, cool, that stuff went on. And so there's not really a lot of podcast information there. So that one kind of fell by. And I've been doing the Geek Fitness Health Hacks podcast, where I tried to do a daily, very candid, unedited one, which got a lot of good response. But I think it's going to go back to probably a weekly, every 2 weeks kind of thing, to have it where I could be a little more focused and have it topics based again and really summarize the things that are going on, talk about individual topics. But we just wanted things to be together, to have, instead of having all of these disparate ideas out there that, you know, every individual person was promoting their own thing. We wanted to have something that was tied together under one banner to be able to say, hey, yeah, this is us, you know, this is going to be quality if you listen to this. You know, there are these standards that we hold for the quality of content that gets put up. So that was really what our idea was behind that we honestly just wanted some podcasts that we couldn't find to listen to. So we wanted to put them out there for other people.
Dude, go ahead.
Oh, and with the subreddit, we just wanted to be able to talk to people. That sometimes on Twitter, there were enough people replying back and forth that you would lose some of the conversation. So we put together a subreddit just to be able to have longer conversations.
That's a great tool to use for long conversations is Reddit, because you can sort of keep the thread going. And Twitter is so easy to get lost in a conversation. And if you're trying to like make a point, then you've got like 3 tweets you have to read. And
yeah. It is, but man, I love Twitter. It is still my go-to place to interact with almost everybody. Like I use it as well. I think Facebook has sort of become my avenue. I was really, really hardcore on Snapchat for a while, but I've been writing a ton as of late
And I just haven't picked my phone up to snap because I'm like, what, you want to know that I'm writing again? Woohoo.
Yeah.
Nobody cares.
Yeah, it's kind of the way I am. I was doing Instagram too. And the more that I've stayed in writing and working on freelance stuff, I haven't been out to be able to take pictures of anything. And the same way with Snapchat, it's like nobody either wants a story of me sitting at my computer. It's like, oh, look at this SEO plugins. Like, hey, it's like I've got Kylo Ren right here. Look at it just sitting there because I'm sitting in one spot all day long. So yeah, it's that kind of thing hasn't been, on my priority. I would love to be able to get it going again. But yeah, I need to get better at Facebook. I really want to learn Facebook, and that's something that I'm working on now with one of the marketing jobs that I've picked up. That's what my wife does for a living. So I'm learning Facebook. But since I've not been a personal user of it as much, Twitter was always my go-to social network. That's the one I've been able to interact with people on more rather than Facebook. And I just had to learn how to do it. So you'll have to teach me how to do that. If that's your go-to place. It's like, teach me, Sensei.
I don't know. It's what I use. I mean, I use Twitter, but like 9 times out of 10, I don't really get a lot of people like chit chatting. I get a lot of bots that like hit things.
Oh,
yeah. But no, someday I would love to have a sort of community on the website, like a login that you can go in and there's sort of a Reddit or a forum or something like that. That's something I would love to have eventually. But BJ, I've enjoyed chatting. We're at the hour mark. If people want to know more about Geek Fitness, where can they find you online? Where can they find you on Twitter? And where can they check out, all the things with the Geek to Geek network?
You can find me on Twitter as either Professor Beej or Geek Fitness Cast, either one of those, depending on what you want to talk to me about,
and
or
Professor
either one.
Beej, is that BEEJ or just like
yes?
Okay.
Professor BEEJ, because that was the nickname everyone's always given me. You can find anything at Geek Fitness itself, show notes for the podcast, articles, just pretty much anything else at geekfitness.net. And if you want to know about the Geek to Geek podcast, go to geektogeekcast.com or at Geek to Geekcast on pretty much all the social networks, but we're on Twitter a lot as that. So you can give us a yell there and give us a listen. We're on all of the podcast services. So Stitcher, iTunes, YouTube, whatever works best for you.
Awesome. And guys, I'll have all those show notes there as well at the website, sidequestfitness.com/podcast, and then just find the episode with BJ and Geek Fitness, and you can get all those links to everything we talked about. I'm sure BJ and I are going to connect and probably maybe grab a burger sometime.
It's close as we
close. We'll connect and we'll have a lot more going on because my goal really is to bring a lot of people in the geek sphere together. BJ and I both thought, I knew Steve was out there doing his thing with Nerd Fitness, but I was like, oh, I'm like the only other person. And then I found BJ. I was like, oh, there's one more person. And then there's like 4 other people. And I'm like, okay, I'm not the unique snowflake I once thought I was. But I do want to bring us all together and share awesome content because I think all of us have unique views of the geek and nerd kingdom ourselves and how we see things. Everyone else. Look, I'm the one guy who will probably be like, listen, I like Darth Vader and I like the Sith. That's my view. I like it.
I was actually thinking about that this morning on ripping off your Sith code article because as Rogue One's coming, I was like, I'm going to write a Jedi code article. And then I'll be like, hey, Rob, look at this. This is how you do it from the light side. And be like,
dude, do it. That's awesome. I totally support that. I want to see that up before Rogue One. There's a challenge. Done.
All
right. All right. So BJ, I've enjoyed it, guys. Again, check out geekfitness.net for all of BJ stuff. And then you can get all the show notes as well. sidequestfitness.com/podcast. BJ, thank you so much, sir.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. This has been fun.
Step up and you gotta get it fitness. Host Rob at the moment and the quest is you gotta check it and wreck it. You're breaking personal records and with the help of the guests you won't be guessing on the lessons. That's a +5 fierce. Got a low-key bamf right here. You wanna meet him, there's no better way to greet him than to strike a boss pose. Take a look into the mirror.